We're off to the Netherlands for today's League Lowdown. And right to the heart of one of Europe's most vibrant nations. This is a backpacker's haven, a country loved by travellers. One famous for its waterways and its culture. And where the traditional sits alongside the modern. A home to bustling cities, as well as rural escapes. Forget the clogs and the cheeses. This is home to the tallest people on earth, where people are always on the move and always celebrating, and where the masters once resided. But the masters we're here for call the football field home. So let's investigate the teams you could take charge of in Football Manager in the League Lowdown Guide to the Netherlands. Welcome to the League Lowdown, and this episode leads us to the Netherlands, a nation that might only provide players of Football Manager with 2 playable divisions, but it boasts some huge clubs that have been successful not just domestically, but across Europe and the world as well. So without further ado, let's launch in by having a look at the league structure in the Netherlands. So let's start in the top division, known as the Eredivisie, which has 18 teams in it, creating a 34-game season, which at the end of, there is also a playoff to determine which teams will qualify for which European competition. The bottom 2 teams at the end of 34 games are automatically relegated to the division below, and the team that finishes third from bottom have a playoff of their own to compete in, with teams that finish outside of the top 2 in the second tier. Qualification for these playoffs is a little bit more complicated. The league is split over 4 different stages. The winner of each stage grabs a playoff place, but obviously some of the winners of the stages might also get promoted automatically later on, so then league positions come into play to determine who's going to qualify for those promotion playoffs. There's a grand final at the end of these playoffs to determine which of the teams is going to be in the Eredivisie next season. So that's how the league structure works in the Netherlands. It's time to have a look at the big teams, starting with the big 3. Let's start our tour of the big 3 in Amsterdam, and the club is Ajax, who play at a stadium that holds just under 55,000 fans and is named in honour of one of European football's greatest ever talents. If we jump into their trophy cabinet, we'll see that Ajax are one of only 5 clubs in Europe that have won all 3 of UEFA's club competitions. But let's start domestically. They've got 19 Dutch Cups, a staggering 34 Eredivisie titles, and that's before we even start looking at their continental triumphs. They won the UEFA Cup in the early 90s. They won the European Cup Winners' Cup in the late 80s, and they've also won Europe's greatest prize on no fewer than 4 different occasions as well, 3 times in a row in the early 70s, and then in 1995, under the management of Louis van Gaal, they managed to beat AC Milan and win that crown again. If we have a look at their facilities, we will see that this is the archetypal club to be creating your own youth talent. They've got superb training facilities, excellent youth facilities, excellent academy coaching, exceptional youth recruitment, and decades of experience of creating some of the top names in European football. If you want to take charge of a club that is already primed for continental success, well, maybe Ajax are the team for you. And we'll find the next of those in Eindhoven. The club is PSV, nicknamed the Farmers. They were originally founded as a works team for staff at the Philips electrical plant that was based in Eindhoven, and they still have a close association with that company. If we go into their history, we'll find that they've also won Europe's top prize, as well as 9 Dutch Cups and 24 Eredivisie titles. During the late 1970s, they won the UEFA Cup. But in the late 1980s, they managed to beat Benfica from Portugal in the European Cup final, making them another Dutch team that has won that top honour. If we go into their facilities, well, you'll see that they are also set up to create the next batch of Dutch wonder kids. Superb training facilities, superb youth facilities, excellent academy coaching and excellent youth recruitment means that they are another production line waiting to churn out talent for your first team. But there is a third club that makes up the top three in the Netherlands. If we head over to Rotterdam, we'll find the third of the big three in the Netherlands, and the club is of course Feyenoord, who may not have won the Eredivisie title as much as PSV and Ajax, but they were the first Dutch winners of a European competition and the most recent winners of a European competition from this country as well. In their trophy cabinet, we're going to find 13 Dutch Cups, 15 Eredivisie titles, granted less than half than the number Ajax have won, but crucially we will see that they've won the UEFA Cup twice, once in the mid-70s and also in 2002 as well. And they've also won Europe's biggest crown on one occasion in 1970, pipping rival Ajax to that title by just a year. And then the next season, they also managed to beat Estudiantes from Argentina to win the forerunner of the World Club Cup, as it was back then. Again, this is a club that has produced a plethora of talent down the years, and it's no wonder with excellent training facilities, excellent youth facilities, excellent academy coaching, and excellent youth recruitment as well. So you'll see that the Netherlands has three clubs that really are amongst some of the leading clubs on the continent. But your football manager journey doesn't need to start with one of the big three. There's other challenges that you could take charge of. Let's start our tour of the challengers to the big three with AZ Alkmaar. This is a club that has managed to win the Eredivisie twice. They won it once in 1981, the same season that they reached the UEFA Cup final before losing to Bobby Robson's Ipswich. But they also won it under Louis van Gaal in 2009, upsetting the big three and beating them to the title. Add to that 4 Dutch Cups as well, and when you throw in that UEFA Cup final appearance, this is a club that might not have the history that the big three have, but is certainly one that you could take on if you want a slightly tougher challenge of overthrowing those big three and trying to take one of those provincial clubs back to the top of the Dutch game. But there's other clubs that you could have such a challenge with. Another club you could take charge of that is capable of challenging the big three on their day is FC20. They've got a 30,000 capacity stadium, and they've also got 3 Dutch Cups in their trophy cabinet, the most recent of them just in 2011. But 2010 was the greatest year in their history, where they won their first and only Dutch Eredivisie title under the management of Englishman Steve McLaren, who was the first English manager to win a Dutch Eredivisie title since the great Bobby Robson. Now, Twente have also reached the top of European competition as well, appearing in the 1975 UEFA Cup final before being defeated by Borussia Mönchengladbach. But that shows you the potential that this side from Enschede have. Maybe you could be the manager that guides them to that first European trophy and that second Eredivisie title. But there are also some clubs that whilst they regularly finish in the top 6, they are yet to win their first Eredivisie titles. And one of those teams that you could take charge of is FC Utrecht, who may have been able to win the Dutch Cup on 3 occasions, but so far the Eredivisie title has eluded them. Maybe you're the manager that could take charge of this provincial side and guide them past the big three to the top of the domestic game. But another club that you could do that with is Vitesse Arnhem, a club who've not only never won the Eredivisie, but they've never finished higher than 3rd. However, in 2017, they did win their first trophy, winning the 2017 Dutch Cup. And they're also a club who has close links to English side Chelsea, and you might be able to bring in loan players from the London club to help you in your bid to establish Vitesse as the Netherlands' leading team. If none of the teams mentioned so far give you the level of challenge that you're looking for, well, maybe you might prefer to take charge of one of the Netherlands' sleeping giants. There are clubs in the top division that have won the Eredivisie title, but you've got to go back a fair while to find the last time they did it. Clubs like Capital Club ADO Den Haag, recently managed by Alan Pardew, or Heracles, another club from a provincial town that have actually won the Dutch Eredivisie title, as have Willem II. But if you want a really successful sleeping giant, maybe we look at Feyenoord's rivals of Sparta, who are the oldest professional club in the Netherlands. There are older amateur clubs, but this is the oldest club still playing in the professional game. And this is a club that has actually won the Dutch Eredivisie title on 6 different occasions, and they've won the Dutch Cup 3 times as well. They were only promoted back to the Eredivisie in 2019, but this is a club that has produced some great talents down the years. The likes of Memphis Depay, Gigi Wijnaldum, Kevin Strootman, even Jetro Willems have all started their careers or part of their youth training with Sparta Rotterdam. And taking them back to the top of the Dutch game might just be a challenge that you want to take on. They've not won the Eredivisie title since 1959. You could be the manager to bring their glory days back to Sparta. But if your kind of challenge is guiding a sleeping giant to promotion before you even start worrying about challenging the big boys, well, if we drop into the Netherlands second tier, there's a couple of clubs that are just itching to return to the big time. What about the club of Go Ahead Eagles, whose stadium might hold less than 10,000 fans, but this is a club with a big history. You're going all the way back to the 1930s to find it, but they actually managed to win the Eredivisie title on 4 different occasions. They weren't even known as Go Ahead Eagles back then. They didn't add the Eagles until their Welsh manager Barry Hughes suggested it in 1970. But this is a club that has played European football, has been at the top of the Dutch game 4 times in the past, but they need a manager like you to take them back to the big time. Another club that's arguably a sleeping giant playing at this level, and definitely a club that is big enough to sustain Eredivisie football, is NAC Breda. They were formed from a merger between 2 local clubs, which left them with perhaps the longest club name I have ever heard of. They may be abbreviated as NAC Breda, but their full title is Never Give Up, Always Persevere, Pleasant for its entertainment and useful for its relaxation combination, Breda. I think we will stick with NAC. This is a club that have got 2 major domestic honours in their trophy cabinet. They won the Dutch Cup in 1973 and they won the Eredivisie title just the one time in 1921. This is a club that's played a lot of its football at an Eredivisie level. Maybe you like the idea of taking charge of this kind of team, steering them back to the big time, maybe even taking them to their second Eredivisie crown. Or if you are looking for a club in the second tier of the Netherlands, what about taking charge of one of the other big challengers? Roda JC are a big club at this level. They've got a stadium that holds almost 20,000 fans. They may not ever have won an Eredivisie title, but they have got 2 Dutch Cups in their trophy cabinet. One in 1997 and a second one in the year 2000. Or what about the challenge of taking charge of one of the clubs from the big cities outside of the big 3 clubs? For example, not only are Feyenoord rivals with Sparta Rotterdam, but from the same city you will also find Excelsior, who've got a 4,500 capacity stadium and a trophy cabinet that's waiting to be filled. You'll see that compared to Sparta, this is an even greater challenge and one that might appeal to you. Or if we head over to Eindhoven, what about the second club from that city, FC Eindhoven, who again have got a stadium that holds just over 4,000 fans. But this is a club that's not only won the Dutch Cup back in 1937, but in 1954 they were actually Eredivisie champions. It's a long time since they've been at that kind of level, but maybe the challenge for you could be taking charge of one of these clubs with a much smaller fan base and taking them back to the top of the Dutch game. So there is the League Lowdown guide to the Netherlands, a nation that gives players of football managers 2 playable tiers to look at, some truly huge clubs that you could take charge of, and some epic challenges at lower league clubs as well. We're going to see you very soon as we make another country the focus of our next League Lowdown.